I think the question that technology has always had for those that are working here, and that is, where do we bring the value? I think if you see technology in general and AI more specifically purely as a threat, I think you're missing the opportunity.
We're all having to retool ourselves and disrupt our thinking, shameless plug, to change the way that we think about the jobs we retain, much less the jobs we lose. Universities are rethinking it, churches are rethinking it, and businesses that don't have disruptive thinking are being left out of the narrative. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome you to another disruptive conversation that I'm having with an influencer and a person of great influence within the Microsoft empire. We're going to be talking about a wide plethora of subjects from a very unique perspective. I think you're going to be enthralled by what Raamel Mitchel brings to the table. He's brilliant, he's bright, but I'm going to let him introduce himself and give us a little bit of his academics, his background, and his current role with Microsoft. Welcome, Raamel. We're glad to have you.
Well, it's great to join you here today and having a conversation, a disruptive conversation, thinking disruptively. We are in that age of disruption and transformation, and so the timing for this it's absolutely perfect. So thank you. Again, Raamel Mitchel, I'm the Global Director for the Microsoft Black Partner Growth Initiative. An initiative I would say even is disruptive in and of itself, where we're looking at building and helping to grow Black technology companies in the US and around the world. Microsoft's mission is to empower every individual and organization on the planet to achieve more. And every day we have teams of individuals and throughout the U.S., throughout the globe, that are really focused on that mission. And so it's definitely an honor and a privilege to have this conversation with you here. You'd asked about a little bit about my background. I've been with Microsoft for about 20 years. Just actually over 20 years, I think last month. And so I've enjoyed an amazing opportunity at a wonderful company to have these type of conversations with individuals and organizations, but also through that journey have been able to travel and reach and have really intriguing experiences as well, all to impact individuals and organizations and communities. In terms of my educational background, proud graduate of Tuskegee University, majored in electrical engineering, minored in physics, and enjoyed that experience there, and then attended Georgetown University, McDonald School of Business, and then also in a joint program, Saudi Business School in Barcelona. And so it's been wonderful to see the world and have these type of conversations and all make it relevant for the type of work that we're trying to drive.
I don't think that I have ever met anybody who graduated from Tuskegee and ended up at a Saudi in Barcelona. I was excited about it because Tuskegee is also my mother's alma mater. So so I deeply relate to the Tuskegee narrative and what it brings to the table. And then to end up at a Saudi in Barcelona is absolutely amazing. I'm wondering a little bit how those wide range of global experiences shapes the way you think.
I think it plays a fundamental role. All of these, I'm from Dallas, Texas. So a kid growing up in Dallas, Texas, in Oak Cliff, graduating from Tuskegee University, going to Georgetown, seeing the world, various countries or what have you, having conversations with thought leaders and officials and policymakers and tech CEOs and has really shaped how I view this world. One, first and foremost, I would say it's this. Even though we are facing huge challenges globally, locally, regionally, what have you. We see it, we read the headlines, whatever they may be. There's still a substantial amount of optimism that I have. There's a substantial amount of optimism that I have because I think I've been able to see the human spirit come alive in different locations, whether you're in Bangalore, whether you're in Bangkok, right? Whether you're in Detroit or whether you're in Dallas, across the globe, it's been so refreshing and energizing to see creativity and innovation come to play, where people are, and from our perspective, are taking technology and creating amazing products to help their communities, to solve challenging problems, to think about the world differently, right? We're not just in this, myopic space. We can think really broadly about the challenges that we face. And I think one of the things that I've learned is that there's so much opportunity to grow and develop and to touch and reach other people that we've never had in human history.
Recently at one of the previous G8 summits, one of the topics that came up definitely was focused around technology and what each country was going to do to focus on various aspects of technology so that each country is not running over top of itself, recreating the wheel. They kind of begin to segmentize and prioritize various aspects of technology for which they were going to focus. But every country is recognizing that this is a paradigm shift of mammoth proportions, global consequences that brings an interconnectality that we have not seen since the World Wide Web. And all of a sudden, several years ago, there was a book when the World Wide Web came out saying that the world is flat. And all of a sudden it flattened the playing field. It changed the way we did business. It changed the way we do medicine. It changed the way we did everything. When you start looking at this era of artificial intelligence, what beyond ChatGPT and the things that people are popularly using right now, what changes and impact do you think that it's going to have on society, and how do we prepare for it?
Yeah, I think, I love Thomas Friedman and The World is Flat. He actually, I think, did like The World is Flat 2, right? He wrote like 2 volumes of that book because the world had gotten flatter, right? Since he wrote it in that shorter period of time. So there are a couple things here, right? When we think about the evolution of technology and what's happened, right? Or when we think about the evolution of industry, there was a book a few years ago that was called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, and AI was part of that. Right, artificial intelligence was part of that. The impact that computing power would make, and the impact that it will have on nearly everything. Right, and I think that's where we are. You're right that we're in this new age where we have the ability to use computational power to identify problems in healthcare. To address issues as it relates to transportation, to think about how we sustainably manage our agriculture. We have the ability to think about what does Energy 2.0 really mean in energy transition, with personalized education, who we are. So it's a really interesting time. We've never been there. So the way that I oftentimes think about it is like this. We had the World Wide Web, it was out, right? And then what lit that up? What lit that up was being able to utilize a browser. Right. When you had this browser, what really lit up the browser? What was the next phase? The ability to search. Right. That came along. There are these transitions that take place. And then we have mobile computing, right, as a subset where you have computing power in your pocket all day long, right? Where you have more computing power. I love when if you ever talk to like these, Apollo astronauts, what they'll say is that, we have 4K of memory on the Eagle capsule when we landed, right? I think that's what they had, somewhere around there. We have more computing power in our phones, in our hands every day than what humanity has had for the majority of the time, right? And so we right now, as we think about artificial intelligence, we are just at the tip of the iceberg. It is beyond just natural language processing. It's beyond thinking about how we're writing essays or doing research reports or that. The real core of it is being able to use that compute power to address some of the major problems, some of the major issues that have plagued us. And that's where we are. We have an opportunity to do that today. And that opportunity can extend to every community and every individual.
Well, bear in mind, take me slow. You're talking to a guy who grew up watching the Jetsons. I'm not sure you even know what that was. But I grew up watching the Jetsons. So this is kind of almost like science fiction has climbed out of my TV set and not only jumped into my phone, as you talked about, not only jumped into the cloud, as we have yet to talk about, not only has jumped into the metaverse, but has also jumped into my HVAC system. Everything in my house is connected in some way with technology in ways right down to my car. Everything else is connected to it. I just recently left the Lake Nona Impact Forum in Florida, and one of the hot topics there was centered around the extreme advancements that surgeries can be done without the doctor even being in the same city, and that technology has changed the way knee surgeries are done, knee replacements are done, and all of that is robotical, and all of that has helped us, and we're living longer and we're living better. And those things are very, very exciting. But I also worry a little bit, maybe because of my age and background. I went through the Industrial Revolution. I saw how the job markets changed. I saw how a lot of people fell through the system and still have not recovered as it relates to job opportunities. People like you who have the background that you do and the academics that you do. And incidentally, I did a little research on you. You also came from a family who also had similar mathematics, engineering backgrounds, and you make sense that you would be incubated into the place that you're in. But to the person who came from Flapjack County and their father pushed a broom and they're having to compete in contemporary societies, do you have some worries about underserved communities falling through the cracks because the labor force is changing, robots are taking jobs, technology is at the checkout counter, the grocery store, and everywhere else? Economically, what do we do to offset that, or is there anything that we can do to offset it?
Yeah, that's you hit the nail on the head here in terms of like the real part of the real impact here that's being made. And I did watch old reruns of the Jetsons, and they never go out.
Good.
And if you think about that, you think about what the Jetsons had, right? I'm going to come back to your question. They're using video screens to talk to each other at great distances.
Right.
They had robots that were cleaning their house.
That's right.
They conducted meetings remotely or hybridly. They had their air conditioning units and everything else before they got home already kind of taking care of their house, right? What we would actually call the age, we might be able to call this the age of the Jetsons for some reasons, right? And if you think about the advancements that are being made in vehicles and in transportation, again, it might reinforce that. But your point and your question here, I think, is a poignant one. It's the necessary one to ask, and that is, how will this impact at the end of the day people that have jobs that have traditionally been showing up and working for years? And with every industrial revolution, with every change, with every transition, we've had to identify opportunities for growth, and we've had to identify opportunities to ensure that people are being brought along, right, this journey. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us now. It's a necessity. I think it's a necessity that each one of us, we have to really understand and educate ourselves, right? Number one, first and foremost, that there's a different type of education that's coming along.
Yes.
If you see, I think if you see technology in general and AI more specifically purely as a threat, I think you're missing the opportunity.
Mhm.
I think if you see AI as something that's, hey, look, it's just going to take away my job, I think that you have to think more broadly about, well, what are you doing, and where else can you add value? What value you're bringing? I think the question that technology has always had for those that are working here, and that is, where do we bring the value? And I think there's a necessity for us to think about how we utilize our time, how we utilize our creativity, how we utilize our genius, how we utilize our passions, so that we can do what we can do in a way that automated systems or robots or what have you can't. They should be complementing oftentimes the genius that we bring to the table. But it is happening. One of the things that, particularly in my prior role, focused on a lot on STEM education,
Yeah.
helping students and those that are transitioning in the workforce understand the power of technology and STEM, understanding coding, some of these other pieces here, so that you have a mindset and that you're ready and that you're prepared for the possibilities.
We have stuck our foot into the water a little bit there. We've been having STEM programs, STEAM summer camps,
Yes.
just trying to introduce the mentality to inject into the arteries of our community a different way of thinking about things that I think is very important. You and I have danced around. It's so funny because I talked about the obstacles, you talked about the opportunities, and neither term is mutually exclusive. Every obstacle is an opportunity. It depends on how you're looking at it and how you deal with it. As you talk about ways in which we can offset the obstacle and create the opportunities so that we have upward mobility, particularly amongst underserved people, but not limited to. I think all people are grappling with, how do I keep up? Older people, no matter their education, their wealth. This is taking it away from a PhD in music or arts. It's gone into a whole different realm where we're all having to retool ourselves and disrupt our thinking, shameless plug, to change the way that we think about the jobs we retain, much less the jobs we lose. Universities are rethinking it, churches are rethinking it, and businesses that don't have disruptive thinking are being left out of the narrative. If you were running a business, if you were leading the pack for a small business or a mid-sized Fortune 500 company even, what would you be focusing on to staff up on in order to remain at the cutting edge of the drastic change that is still yet unpredictable that's going to be made?
I think every company, the greatness of every company starts with two things. One is the idea, and the other is the people. I think when you think about your talent, the way that you source, recruit, strengthen, grow your talent is so critical now. It's so critical. What's the mindset and the culture that you're creating within the organization? The culture of organizations over the last 2 or 3 years has changed, right? We've been talking about hybrid, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. Which is another digital transformation impact on the business. AI is a digital transformation impact on the business. So what does an organization, small, medium, or large, need to think about? One, they need to think about the type of people that they're hiring, that they're training, that they're growing, that they're developing, so that they can meet the demands of the market. Two, I think that if I'm a small, medium business, I'm thinking about, how do I leverage this technology to, one, reduce costs, improve efficiencies, go after new market, look at total addressable market in different spaces, right? Look at white space opportunities, eliminate redundancy in terms of like the functions that I might be driving, so that I can focus on the vision of the company. I can focus on growth. I can focus on the core priorities of the company. And I think whether you're a small, medium, large, enterprise, multinational, global corporation, we're all kind of going through this thought process right now, right? In terms of the type of talent that's needed to take advantage of the opportunities that tomorrow will hold. And then two, ensuring that the type of technology that we're leveraging aligns to the goals and practice of the business. And so that's where that's fundamental.
My hope, we started a company called Good Soil, which is focused on developing entrepreneurs to grow and scale their businesses up to the next level. Most minority businesses, about 94%, have less than 2 employees. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get them to think very differently as they go forward from hustling to harvest, to really getting down into the thrust of what they're trying to do in business. And we're trying to train them to do that more proficiently. What's exciting to me about AI is that it creates a bigger opportunity for marketing. It creates a bigger opportunity to get you out of the office from doing paperwork, for research, for data acquisition. Those sorts of things I think are really, really good, and also put you on a global stage where you can your customer doesn't have to live across the street from you, but can live around the world from you and create all those opportunities. I think that's an exciting way to look at doing business going forward.
I love that point. And not only does it do that, it does this. It takes you, when you think about this from a global standpoint, your company, whether that's a 1, 2, 5 person shop, for instance, can think about themselves not just as a local company that's in this city or that city or what have you, or that neighborhood. They could be a global organization. When you think about the processes, when you think about, all right, I need to communicate and connect with my customer. Well, there's, transcription services and translation services that are provided in real time that's coming along, right? When you think about who you have part of your ecosystem, whether it's your partner ecosystem or whether it's your tech providers or your customers in general, we are at a really unique stage where we can engage and provide unique service based on your demands, based on your needs. In education, for years, we talked about personalized education. And in healthcare, we talk about personalized healthcare, right? That means creating a health solution for you because of who you are, your needs, your profile per se, right? Your health profile, specifically for you. We can do that in so many different areas. So if I was going back to your question, if I was a company, I'd be thinking about, how do I leverage this as a tool, as a mechanism for me to engage my customers in the market again, in ways that I haven't, in ways that my competitors haven't. I
certainly agree with that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no.
Forgive me. I certainly agree with that. One of the things that I'm pondering about through some of the companies that I own is that you can geo-target more effectively, aggregate information and specify who you are targeting, who has an interest in what you have globally. With artificial intelligence, you can really zone in, and rather than wasting dollars going after people who have no interest in what you have, for the person who has a limited budget, you can bullseye right specifically on people that are doing amazing things. While we talk about the opportunities, one of the obstacles is digital ethics. And I'm not sure that the ethics are keeping up with the digitization of the way that we do business. I'm not sure that Congress is keeping up with digital ethics. Do you think that companies can be trusted to develop their own ethics regarding this issue? And even if they can, are we creating the same scalpel that does the surgery can commit a murder? How do we harness this artificial intelligence so that it doesn't fall into the hands of terrorists or people who are wanting to create bombs or wanting to shut down our grid systems? How much thought, and maybe there's a lot more being done about it than I know, where are we on digital ethics, and who's the police officer that's controlling what's going on here?
Yeah, well, you have asked, I think, one of the most important questions, if not the most important question, related to AI and technology in general, right? I think technical ethics is something that is absolutely needed, and it comes in a number of different forms. One, there's this ethical conversation in terms of how policy, how a corporation, how a company, a business should think about leveraging AI, right? When we think about data privacy, data protection, what role does that play when you think about AI? When you think about your profile, being your voice, your being able to own that, who has the access to that. And there are some examples on YouTube of some artists right now.
Right.
I won't go into detail on them, but there are
we all
some,
know who you're talking about.
we already we know, right?
Yeah.
So what are the ethical implications of that? I think we have to think about that. So that's one piece. But the other part of that question is around policy. And so governments, state, local, federal governments, national governments need to think about this, right? In terms of what type of regulations will be necessary. And I think, working with private sector, working with public sector, working with theologians, I think is an important piece in creating a layer of ethical practice as it relates to AI that's going to be necessary as we move into the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. And you see this across the board. You see Microsoft raising a voice in terms of ethical practice of the utilization of AI. And one of our chief leaders here, Matt Smith, has been a key leader across the globe in this area. That voice is so important. We see others from across the industry saying, "Hey, look, we do need to think about AI." There are a couple books here that I think about as well. Tools and Weapons by Brad Smith and The Age of AI by Kissinger and Smith. And they talk about kind of the perils and the opportunities, but we're in an interesting time and an interesting age. And for us to move forward, this question of ethics and what you're doing every Sunday, every day, in every business that you have, and in everything that you say, I think is so important for humanity as we move forward. This is the question. We could probably, I know we're only talking 30 minutes here, but we could probably spend an hour and a half specifically on ethics.
I guarantee we could spend an hour and a half because I'm very interested in the subject. I find it very fascinating. Let's jump personal for just a moment with the few minutes we have left. From a 17-year-old boy who starts working at Raytheon and enters into a career that goes to Microsoft, that continues to explode, can you talk about, first of all, it's amazing that at 17, you were already knew who you were, knew where you wanted to go. There's been a consistency from your education throughout your career that you seem to have a compass, a GPS system that guided you, that you, as far as I know, have not deviated from. Have there been moments of disruption in your life? I don't mean personally, but professionally, where you had to think disruptively? And can you talk about a time that you've been disruptive in your thinking, and how did that work for you?
Absolutely. If you are in a career for any length of time, whether that's 5 weeks, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years, you're going to experience a level of disruption, and I have experienced disruption. One of my first pieces of disruption was actually after I came to Microsoft. I hired about 20 students from university. I was one of those 20. And then shortly into the program changed. So we had to be agile in terms of that. The market that we're in, technology moves at such a pace that things change quickly. We have to be agile. And so in my career, there have been moments and times that's happened really quickly. I'd be remiss if I didn't just reference one of my former managers here at Microsoft, and she was a woman that left just recently. But one of the things she would always say to our team, and it was our corporate citizenship team, she would always say, "Hey, look, things change. We always have to head of the change. We have to be prepared for the change. Enjoy and appreciate this moment now, but understand that change is inevitable." And I think that's the modus operandi that I kind of live by. It's fun. It's been an interesting journey. It's been full of highlights, and it's had some pitfalls. But I think going back to statement in North Star, having kind of a vision when you know where you're going and you can course correct. When you can course correct, it can allow you to, even though you might get off course a little bit, it can allow you to understand where your vision is, where you're going, what your ultimate purpose is and goal. And you don't feel the pitfall as much.
You said something, and I think it is the crowning moment of the interview. How do you recover from a fall? I think so many people, entrepreneurs, married, corporate people, hit a snag somewhere and they think that it is doom. And yet you said we should anticipate these disruptions, even failures. What did you say to yourself? You don't have to get ultra personal unless you want to, but what did you say to yourself at your lowest moment that got you back in the game? And I'm asking you this not just to know what you said to yourself, but to give the language to the people who are listening, who might be in a tough spot right now. What do you say to yourself that gets you back on target again when life has been disruptive?
How do you turn this into an opportunity? How do you turn this into an opportunity? Every day we have an opportunity to learn. My worst day is someone else's dream. My worst day is someone else's dream somewhere. When you think about that, your toughest day, when you walk into an office, maybe you lose your job, maybe you have your health when you walk away. Someone dreams about that moment. I think about that in terms of you have to be optimistic to move forward. It's easy to let the circumstance, which is only a limited amount of time, it's a very limited amount of time that you have that circumstance when you think about the longevity and the course and the arc of your life. So I think about that vision. We talked about, having that North Star. That's so important. Even on the worst day, being able to laugh and smile about that, because you have the opportunity to do it. We talked about ethics. I studied a little philosophy when I was in college. One of my favorite stories is of Sisyphus. And Sisyphus is this guy that was banned and destined to push this rock up a hill.
Right.
Push this rock up the hill. And Camus was describing Sisyphus. And Sisyphus would move this rock, and his face was in the rock, and he would get it all the way to the top of the hill, and then the rock would roll down. And then Sisyphus would look in despair and walk towards that rock and push it back up. Yeah. And I think about those moments. As I think about my ancestors, as I think about my family, as I think about the struggles, I don't have the right to give up. You don't have the right to give up. You weren't put here to give up. You weren't put here to quit. It's a tough day. Tomorrow might be better. Tomorrow might not be better, but take that opportunity to see. And so I think that's been my philosophy, having people around me that support that, and then just having that embedded in my heart.
I don't think we can top that. I think if people walk away with this conversation, I know if you're like me, I want to keep talking to Raamel for the rest of the day because he is so full of information. But that last point of inspiration might be the bullet you need to defeat the obstacle that you face and to seek out the opportunity that exists in every obstacle and become a disruptive thinker. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It is not the problem that defeats you, it's the mentality about the problem that ultimately defeats you. You can't control the problem, but you can control how you think about it. And I think that Raamel dropped a huge nugget on us when he said, look for the opportunity in every obstacle and every bad day, and reminded us that our worst day is somebody else's dream. Raamel, I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule to share with us. It's been enlightening, motivating, stimulating, inspirational, and powerful. And thank you for being who you are and representing all of us in a field where we are underrepresented. We need to see your face to know that it is possible for a niche to be carved out in this field where we are so underrepresented. So thank you so much for being one of our great heroes in this technological space.
Thank you. I'm, again, just so honored to be here, and thank you for all that you're doing and the conversations you're having.
Thank you. You heard it from the man himself. I hope it's inspired you. I hope it's motivated you. And I hope it has helped you to be a disruptive thinker.